Hi, I'm Don Rittner.
And I'm Justina Kostek.
So today we're going to continue exploring Sharon Springs in upstate New York along the Great Western Turnpike.
We want to talk to some small business owners and see how can they survive so far from large urban cities.
So come and join us as we learn more about
History on the road.
We wanted to talk to some of the business owners of Sharon Springs, so we met Maureen and Elizabeth Graham at the historic 1860 seven-bedroom stone mansion, a beautiful Victorian Italianate design that was the former home of John Gardner, who also owned the famous Pavilion Hotel in 1841. His son Henry built the Beaux Arts-style Sulphur Temple and Imperial Baths to attract Jewish tourists in 1927.
What better way to get there than in a 1901 Oldsmobile?
So Maureen, I understand you've actually been here the longest in terms of having a business in Sharon Springs.
Yes.
When did you come here?
We moved here in 1984 and spent many a time driving past this adorable building in the lower village where no one else was. And it had a straight roof line, and my husband and I said, well, maybe we better buy it so it doesn't fall down. And then a few years later, 1997, we opened our gift shop.
Since Sharon Springs was not hopping at the time, even though it was this great place in the 30s, I guess, but why would you, what made you think that, oh yeah, I'm going to open a business in a little village where hardly anybody comes?
Well, multiple reasons. Number one, my friend Kathy Spofford that opened the shop with me, she had a small consignment shop in Jack Smiles building, which is across from the Roseboro Hotel. So, and she had great sense of selling, and then we were close friends with Doug and Garth, who had the cafe and then bought the American Hotel, which is across the street from us. So that gave us another clue that, well, maybe something will happen here. And honestly, coming from New Jersey, I just got sick of driving 20 minutes each way to get a gift. My daughter was in a class of 23 students total. And so you go to every birthday party,
right.
And we were constantly on the road back and forth buying gifts, and so I just thought it would be a good use of the building and something to do.
And apparently it's been successful because you're still here.
It is. This is our 24th year.
Wow,
So, yeah.
Good for you.
One of the reasons too we saw the need to stay is the Adler Hotel was open and running. So
It was, that's right.
Oh yeah, it didn't close until 2006. So, and my daughter happened to work at the Adler as a waitress when she was 14 and 15. So it was a great connection back and forth between the two, and many of the residents of the Adler came here either by bus or by train. They had no vehicles, so the only thing they could do was walk up and down Main Street.
But Main Street at the time had a lot more buildings too, right?
No, not necessarily,
no?
And we were the only open ones as well.
Oh, that's right, because you were there in the 90s. I'm thinking of the sort of the heyday when there was all the hotels and stuff.
Yes.
Where do you see Sharon Springs in 5 years? What would you be hoping for?
Well, number one, Klinkart Hall, the theater next to our building, should be up and running. I'm on the board of that and had a meeting this morning, and we're in a heavy fundraising segment right now. So that will add arts and culture. Hopefully the bathhouse will be further along. It was, and in its heyday, it was a great building. And even back in 1997, it was, the residents were extremely interesting and definitely made every day worthwhile. So it's, it's one of those things where my daughter and son-in-law live in Connecticut, and now they've just bought a house here, and they use it for Airbnb, and they're going gangbusters with Airbnb. It's the kind of place where people like to come and just chill out and relax a little bit. Yeah. And they've been totally booked July and August, and one of the reasons was people wanting to come out of the city.
Yes.
and just look at the stars, get fresh air, have a nice place to go.
I'm going to go back to the Adler a little bit. Obviously, the condition of it now is not the way it was when
sad.
it was in business. Yeah, but can you tell us a little more about, since your daughter worked there, what it was like? Because it's just gorgeous. I mean,
It
it's
was.
in bad shape now, but you could tell it was this gorgeous hotel.
Well, I don't know how much of the history you've gone through, but primarily concentration camp survivors stayed there, or survivors of the Holocaust, because there were survivors there who escaped through the Viennese woods. And the beautiful part about my daughter being 14 and 15 is she listened intently to all of the stories.
Right.
It's the last of the first-hand accounts of the Holocaust.
Wow.
Well, we heard Steven Spielberg, when he was doing
He did.
Schindler's List, came and actually interviewed
He
someone.
did. Willie the cook was a Schindler Jew. He was beaten to where he was deaf. He was kicked. But he had a standing joke with all the kids who worked there. And they knew he was deaf, but they could never figure out how he knew what they were saying, even though his back was to them. And the pots and pans all hung over the stove.
Oh, right.
And it was two full kosher kitchens. There were two kitchens. So he would read their lips through looking at the
So the
shine
reflection
of the pots and
of
pans.
the pot.
So, and he would, and he would make this comment like, "You boys and girls, you better stop that." And they would all go, "Oh my God, how does he
He's
know?"
got eyes behind his head.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But there was, it was the old switchboard, like you used to see on Laugh-In, and Mrs. Yarconi's mother used to do that.
I saw that
"Hello,
yesterday.
Adler Hotel, how can I help you today?" But it was just the story. My daughter benefited. We were Irish Catholic, and we had come home from Ireland one time, and she had a Celtic cross, and it was Shabbos or Saturday, and it fell out of her shirt. So she tucked it back in out of respect for the people she was waiting
Right.
on. And this one woman looked at her and took her by the hand, and she said, "You take that cross out, and you never deny who you are. Be proud of who you are and your heritage." And for a 14-year-old to hear something like that, it just was
Yes.
very special.
Lasting impression, I'm
She
sure.
witnessed people who met on the porch who hadn't seen each other since the camps, and they were children. So it was it was a truly remarkable place.
It's too bad to see it, falling apart.
It is. I'm sure the Yarconis are heartbreaking if they see
Yeah.
any pictures of it.
Now, I don't know if you remember, but I actually came to your store, and it was in the late 90s. And what I found fascinating about your place is that
Rachel Ray.
you let people autograph the walls.
We
You
did.
just let anyone come in and sign their name. And your store is just literally full of autographs and little slogans and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I signed it 3 times.
Did you?
And I found 2018.
Okay.
The last time I was in your store. I can't find the early one. I know it was the 90s.
Well, it's gotten to the point where kids would come in too if they wanted to buy candy, and then we have one, Andrew loves Mary, and then Mary would get crossed off, and then it was Joan, and then she'd get crossed off, it's back to Mary again. It's like, ooh, Mary must have been cute. So,
Popular.
but now they're bringing their children back to see where they signed the walls. In some cases, the pen's faded.
Yeah, I noticed
But in
that.
others, they're very predominant. It started off because when we were first there, we had no heat. So we were seasonal, and we'd close up, and we reopened in May. And the townspeople thought we were lunatics for opening a store,
Right.
and more or less to come back the second year. It was true lunacy. But we were talking about it. We hadn't done anything with the hallway wall yet. And a couple came in from England on the Saturday, and another couple came in from Australia that same Saturday, and they were both coming for the waters.
Oh, right.
So I looked at Kathy Spofford and I said, and we both looked at each other, we're a gift shop, we should have a guest book. Well, we didn't. And the next day, a lady came in from Wales, South Wales. So we handed her a pen and said, "Here, sign the wall." And we figured we'd work around it or whatever. And then all of a sudden, it was a good idea. We have every single state in the United States. We have 35 countries, thanks to the Adler, because there were
Right.
quite a few from
Right.
Europe that came. Rachel Ray, Governor Pataki.
I saw Rachel Ray's. It's right on the top
That's
as
when she
you're
was
coming down the stairs.
working in Albany.
Yeah.
So it's been been a good ride for sure.
Do you have anyone from Poland that signed the law?
Oh yes. Yeah.
Very good. Well, there'll be another one today.
It's Polski.
Right. Yeah, we're both going to autograph today.
Great.
Yes, we're both from Poland.
I guess I'm adopted. Yeah. So you said your daughter worked there, right?
Right.
So
right.
I'm assuming then you probably have gone there for various functions
Spent
too.
a lot of time there. She didn't drive then, so I had to drive her there and pick her up, and then I'd talk to the Arconis, and I found it interesting too, just as she does. I come from an Irish background. My parents are born in Ireland. My father was a North of Ireland Protestant. My mother was North of Ireland Catholic. So I enjoy understanding cultures and how they fit together. So the fact that there were so many different varied people there, so I got to talk to the rabbi, and being Irish Catholic again, I grew up in New Jersey. You're either with Irish or Italians if you're Irish, Catholic. So I really never had an opportunity, and Maureen learned all of the kosher customs perfectly, and she would explain them to me. She babysat for the rabbi for the first 2 years. So she would come home and tell me stories, and then it was just interacting. We went to, bingo was 2 nights a week. Then Saturday was the big dance and the party, which was absolutely priceless. It was in the ballroom.
Now the ballroom was the first big room you walk in, or was it the one that's got the stage?
The one on this with the stage
on
that would be the east side of the building. So they had a combo, 4-piece combo, and they had an MC, and his name was Lee Barry. And when you walked into the room, the placard with his picture on it was from when he was 30. Of course, he was 70 or so. But he would do a little stand-up sometimes, especially before the bingo. And we couldn't understand all the kids who after work would all go to bingo, it was called. So we go to bingo. And the kids kept winning, and we couldn't understand why. Until the following year, Lee couldn't make it, and a different person was the MC who spoke Yiddish, and he called the bingo in Yiddish. All of a sudden, all the residents of the Adler, they started winning the bingo. They couldn't understand the English words, but they were just happy to be there, so they were great. And then on Saturday would be the big, or Sunday would be the big dinner and dance. So the 4-piece combo would set up. They'd have all the chairs around the outside, the perimeter. They'd have a long buffet table. And because they had no liquor license, they gave away the liquor. So in little dentist shot glasses, they had rows of vodka, rows of rye, and then they had a big soup pot from the kitchen with Manischewitz and fruit punch in it. So you would get a bigger glass and dump in whatever liquor you wanted. And then there was the full buffet of matzo balls and whatever, and the combo would be dancing. So, I mean, they had the fellow who was the pianist he wrote the I Love Lucy theme.
Oh, really?
He was,
and
he
cool.
had white hair, never forget him, white hair, white golf shirt, white Azad sweater, white plastic belt, white pants, white shoes, and he would play the piano on one side of the stage, and then he would get up and he'd shuffle. And while he was shuffling across the back of the stage, the other fellow would play, the drummer would play Lady of Spain on the xylophone. And by the time he finished Lady of Spain on the xylophone, the guy sat down at the keyboard and goes, "Okay, boys, hit it." And they'd be right in sync. They had done it every single time. But it was, and then there was Bella, the very professional singer. I sing "Hello, Dolly," and she had fishnet stockings, and it was truly entertainment.
Yeah.
It was a combination of a Woody Allen movie and The Shining. Right. It's, somewhere in between.
Well, hopefully that kind of entertainment will come back to Sharon Springs.
I hope so, because it was
Carol Channing with a little Manischewitz.
Yes, it really. Yes. So the drummer, this fella, his wife was sitting next to me, and her name was Rose, and she said, "So why aren't you young people dancing?" There were like 6 of us, and I said, "Well, my husband doesn't have much rhythm. He doesn't like to dance." And she goes, "I know what you're talking about. Took me 5 husbands before I found one with rhythm, and he's the drummer."
I love it.
It was just,
watch the drummers.
I could go on, honestly, all day telling the stories. It was just priceless.
You need to write a book.
Yes,
You do.
it sounds like it, really. Yes.
It was great.
So, Elizabeth, I
Yes.
understand that you are one of the recent
I'm
business
more
owners
recent,
in this
yes.
beautiful area. What brought you to Sharon Springs?
Well, actually, I motored through in 1980.
Wow.
I lived in Saratoga Springs, and I would just sometimes get lost, you know, and here I was in Sharon Springs, and I got out of my car. I pulled up, and I looked around, and I believe it might have been the Adler that I saw, but I just kept my eye on the prize all the years, just say, I wonder what's going on in Sharon Springs over the years. And as luck would have it, my cousin, Deb McGillicuddy, was here making natural soap.
Oh.
And I came to visit her one day, and many years later, or maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I said, well, things have changed
And
here.
join the party.
Well, although I had been in your shop.
Oh, good.
Probably in the 90s.
Did you sign the wall?
Yes, I did.
I was going to say, I think everybody's been in her shop.
Everyone's
It was the only
signed it.
shop in town, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but I was always taken with it. I always thought, it was always in the back of my mind, and maybe this was where I was meant to be. It was just happenstance, and I think my cousin was making soap on her farm, and her shop wasn't open, so I thought, well, maybe I could help her out and open up her shop sometimes and watch it for while she was making her soap.
Yes.
And you know, one thing led to another, and I just love this town. I love the people that have found it and made it their own. I mean, there's many new shops that are just delightful here, and people just like you and I that came through and just said, there's something about it here. I mean,
Well, that's what I'm finding too. There's some kind of attraction because
Serendipitous. We
because
just
now
kind
you
of all-
have, I mean, you've got a famous San Francisco jazz singer who's moved in, Veronica, right? Veronica
Right.
Claus. You've got Paul Muldoon.
Paul Muldoon and his
So you
wife
got
Jean.
a famous poet. You got his wife. I mean, you know, and you got the Beekman Boys. And
Withams, the woodworking people. He uses all old tools, and he's got a rocking chair with a cradle that rocks.
well, that's cool.
And he was on the Yankee Workshop, and people came from. I remember they signed the wall. They came from England.
And there's Delphi that makes.
They have wallpaper hanging in Mount Vernon.
Yeah.
That they made reproduction.
What is your dream? Come here and people embrace you,
Yeah.
and they will support you.
And I think that's what our clientele too.
Absolutely.
One of the reasons they have to. This is a destination.
Exactly.
Right.
There's only 500 people in the village, another 2,000 in the town. So it's not like we're going to be kept alive with the
Right.
local people. But so you have to make a point of coming here, and across the board, customers say, "I love the way you all work together." You send, and we'll do that. If I don't have something, well, I think Elizabeth will, and
Right.
we'll even call each other, and
Yeah.
you have it or don't you?
Right.
And we try not to step on each other's toes too much, so that there's a good variety for the customers.
Right.
I think so. It's the
It's an
feel of the-
old-fashioned hospitality.
Hospitality, yes.
There's a sign that says that when you enter, coming in, going west on Route 20, and it's true. And people know each other. They care about each other. And it's a slower
Well, it's-
pace of life.
It is, and once you start.
I
to
wasn't
tell-
used to it when I first
No.
came. I had to get, I was talking pretty fast and moving around, and then I started slowing down a little bit. It's catchy. It gets
Yeah.
inside of you. Oh, that's why we're here, because it's a better way of life. It's
We noticed that by staying here. And
Did
one
you
of
feel it?
Yes.
One of the bed and breakfasts is you just sit on the porch and you sit on the rocking chair
And you hear the crickets.
and you just kind of go, yeah, I could live here.
There's something in the air here, you know. I feel that there's some energies here that are very, very attractive.
We've been told that.
Well, David
Yes.
Byrne has a line. sings about water running underground.
Yes.
Oh, right. And
Water
that's what you
running
have.
underground has energy.
Yes.
It does indeed.
Yes. I'm definitely feeling it. Yes.
But that's originally Native American Indians found the sulfur water.
Yes, they
Right.
do.
And they knew, and they would go there after battle. They would heal with it topically, and they would also make arrowheads not too far from here, and then
Right.
sell their baskets and trinkets on Route 20. So it has evolved as far as, I think there is a kind of a draw here of people who are
Well, wasn't it
like-minded.
Dr. Fonda who in 1852 wrote Analyze the
Yeah,
Water?
he
and
wrote the
a
book.
and that's
Yeah,
began
and
that
apparently it
process.
went viral,
Right.
as we
Yes.
would say today, and then people
Right.
started flocking here. But again, you know, it's got to be this geological formation because you have Sharon Springs, you have Saratoga Springs, Richmond Springs, Balsam Spa, and they all have these waters
Yeah, we're the only ones with pure water.
with pure water.
Saratoga's a mixed water.
Oh, okay.
Clifton Springs has a pure sulfur. There was a time when we were trying to get together a spa trail when Governor Pataki was in. He wanted to do that as a tourism initiative.
I
Yeah.
like that.
That's a
And
good
link all
idea.
of the
Good
different spa
idea.
towns.
Yeah.
And Cherry Valley had
Yes.
lithium, but Clifton Springs was only the other one that had the pure sulfur water. And they have a hospital connected to it, which is a
Really?
American Medical Association hospital. They have the largest herbal pharmacy in the world in that hospital, and they reopened their sulfur water baths. So when someone comes out of surgery, they go right into a sulfur bath.
And this is in
that
Clifton
hastens the
Springs
healing. It's in
today?
Clifton Springs.
Wow.
I'm learning new things every day. I think
Because
I
you can
learn
only be
something
20
new.
minutes in a tub with the sulfur water.
Well, Justina had a headache for I don't know how many hours
Yes,
yesterday.
yesterday I had
And then we
headache
went
for
down
4
and
hours
just
and I
to
went
taste
down.
Yeah.
I went down and I put the water on my eyes and it went right away. It went
But
away.
sulfur water is absorbed like a nicotine patch, and it gets into, you can only sit in the tub for 20 minutes. So those rooms at the bathhouse, there were 2 rooms adjoining. There was one where you would get changed and you would go sit in the tub for 20 minutes. There was a little clock on the door. And then the attendant would take you out and you had 40 minutes of rest. It would exhaust you because all the kids at the Adler used to take baths between breakfast and lunch and dinner to rejuvenate them. But the point is it makes your heart beat faster. Therefore, it increases your blood supply, which increases oxygen to an area. And that's why so many of the concentration camp survivors that had experiments done on them, there were some Mengele twins, but they would spend every day in a bath. And when they left here, and their whole reparations was paid for by Germany. And depending upon what they did in the camps was how much free vacation they got. Like, there was one gentleman who used to come into the shop, one of Maureen's customers, and he used to have to go through the ashes to pick out the gold from the teeth, and he got a month every year. And then another woman in the kitchen would get a week every other year. So it was kind of, and he used to say, "See my free vacation." He would go, "This is it." And that's kind of when Sharon was going down. But anyway, it was, again, a lot of interesting stories, but they're continuing now. You know, my building is a Florence Fonda owned building, and yours was a boarding house. There were
Yes.
60 boarding houses. Largest hotel in the world,
Yes.
1864, the Pavilion.
And now it's time for the new guard to come.
I know.
Well, that's what it
and,
looks like.
and
yeah.
discovering Western New York, which
Absolutely.
yeah, it's there's a lot of promise here, a lot of open land. There's a lot of homes that can be.
And as Wi-Fi increases and people can work from home,
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I've seen some of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, having lived in Saratoga Springs as the transition, I lived there in the late 70s, and you could, you know, what house were you going to save? We would say to our friends, you know, this one, oh my gosh, is so beautiful, and they were so affordable, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
People came, and things changed, and I'm sure that this is where we're going here.
yes.
So 5 years from now, Sharon Springs will be a destination just like it was in the 1930s, right?
we're hopeful.
I mean, that's what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we love everyone who comes now. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's special, and I thank them. Thank you for coming here. There are other destinations for a day trip.
Yes.
Yeah.
There certainly are, and we don't have as many perhaps as many shops, and we've got a lot of heart.
But, as I always said, we're in the middle of nowhere, but an hour from anywhere.
That's true.
Yes.
You can
I
be
like
in
that.
Saratoga in an hour, you can be in Albany in an hour, you could
True.
be at Bouckville antiquing in an hour.
Yes.
You know, whatever your likes are. And Maureen's Airbnb people, many of them are coming up here now for hiking, you know, just to get out in the fresh air and not have to be around people. We've got the scenery, we've got the architecture, got it all, baby.
Yes. Well, Glimmer Glass will be here again next year, which is just right outside. And Clinkhart is exciting. That's really exciting.
Yes.
Our new art center.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, you know, thank you for taking the time and telling us a little about Sharon Springs, and I know we'll be back anyways.
Yes.
So
Good.
thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
for having
you.
us. Thank you.
So that was another exciting adventure in Sharon Springs, New York.
We hope you enjoyed our interview with Maureen and Elizabeth, and we will see you again on History on the Road.
Hello, room service. It's for you.
Hello? Jennifer speaking? No? Mark is not here.
Look at this.
I'm sorry? Hold on. He said he would pick up the potatoes tomorrow. I told him that he cannot come to my garden every Friday. All right. Just send Betty over. Okay, bye. Bye. Oh my God, it's Margaret.
Yeah.
She's such a